So as a surprise weapon, it may work, but don't take the knight on e5. Hello chess fans, this is Rick from Chess to Impress with a new video in the alphabet series. We've arrived at the letter D. And as we saw in previous weeks, you have been quite creative with your suggestions. Gregory said, why not make a video on d4, d5? Mr. T said development. Joey P said Daniil Dubov. And Skowie replied with, why not Jan Krzysztof Duda? And Peter said database. Matthias suggested to make a video on the great Roman Djindjichashvili. Theodore said dramatic games and Igor said D-file. Damiano defense was suggested by Roger Berryman. Draw was suggested by Michele, Raventoe and William. Double attack also by Michele and Rupali. 30 seconds delay said Chanko Tukumano. David Bronstein, Dutch and Dragon were 3 suggestions by Raventoe. I've decided to go with Damiano defense, Roger Berryman's suggestion. I will show you a classic game with that defense, a game you really should know. It was played by Gioacchino Greco. Who is he, you may ask? Well, that's also a name you really should know. I talked about him before. He was the 5th strongest player of his era. I made a series from Rui Lopez to Magnus Carlsen about the history of the strongest players of their era. And Gioacchino Greco was the 5th one. He was born around 1600 and died around 1634. He authored a famous manual containing many traps and checkmating patterns. His games, all against anonymous opponents, were quite possibly constructed by Greco himself. In 1656, after his death, the manuscripts were published in London, and the great Mikhail Botvinnik considered Greco to be the first professional chess player. Garry Kasparov in his My Great Predecessor series wrote, the stages in the development of chess resemble the path taken by everyone who proceeds from beginner to a player of high standard. Initially, they all unconsciously reproduce the manner of play of the 16th and 17th centuries, never missing a chance to give check, bring the queen immediately into play, and, not thinking about the development of all the pieces, launch a dashing attack on the king. Kasparov continues, the combination either succeeds or suddenly turns out to be completely incorrect. The level of defense is terrible and there is a completely absence of any deep plan. And Kasparov said Gioacchino Greco is the legendary representative of this style, which is called the Italian school. Now let's have a look at this game in the Damiano defense by Gioacchino Greco. As said, he probably constructed this game himself. There was no real opponent. e4 he played on the first move, e5 and knight f3. Attacking the pawn on e5, and as I'm sure you all know, the main move here to defend that pawn is knight c6, played millions of times. Also d6 is possible to protect the e5 pawn, that's the Philidor defense, but also you can play knight f6, not protecting that pawn at all, but counter-attacking the pawn on e4, that's the Petrov defense. But this video is about the Damiano defense, the letter D, and that is the move f7, f6. Named after the Portuguese chess author Pedro Damiano, who lived from 1480 to 1544. Damiano himself knew this was not a good defense. He wrote about it but said that it was not strong. Still, the opening is named after him. Why is f6 a bad move? Well, it weakens the king's position and it also takes a natural square for the knight on g8 away. Here knight takes e5 is the strongest move, a piece sacrifice on move 3. And it's a correct sacrifice. Black cannot take the piece. We'll see in this game what happens when he does take it. Black has lost the pawn and queen e7 is the best move here. Black will win the pawn back. But according to the theoreticians who wrote about this opening, white also then gets an opening advantage. In 1964, Bobby Fischer faced this move in a simultaneous display in Houston against Robert McGregor, and black surprisingly managed to draw the game. Fischer played the knight back, which is now really attacked on e5. d5 was played, d3, and black won his pawn back. Queen takes check. Bishop e2 interposing, bishop f5, and knight d4 was played by Fischer, and as said, this game ended in a draw. Fischer did not play the best moves in the simultaneous display. White is still better here. But back to our Greco game from 1620. After knight takes e5, black takes on e5, wins a piece. But the black king is really exposed now. Queen h5 check. And now black only has 2 legal moves. If you play g6 to shield the check, then there is queen takes e5 check, winning the rook in the corner, and that will leave white an exchange up. So white already has extra material here. The other move, which was played in this game from Greco, is king e7. Then also queen takes e5 check. At least you're not losing the rook now. King f7 is the only legal move. And now the black king gets chased around. Bishop c4 check. King g6. Queen f5 check. The black king gets forced to the h-file. King h6. d4. That's also check. A discovered check from the bishop on c1. g5 interposing. And h4. After 5 consecutive checks, black now has a free move. But it is too late. Let's see what the threat is. Let's make a very bad move for black. If you play a6, which does not make any sense, but just to show the checkmate threat, then it's h takes g5 check. That's a double check with the pawn and with the rook. King g7, and this is checkmate. In this position you can play queen e7, defending against the immediate mate. But then there is bishop takes g5 check, and that's a fork on king and queen. White will win black's queen, and shortly thereafter black's king will get checkmated anyway. In this Greco game, king g7 was played, and also then there was a mate in 2 in the position. Queen f7 check, king h6, and this is checkmate. Double check, and mate. Quite a massacre. But as I said, this is really one of the classic games that every chess player should know. The Damiano defense, not really recommended unless you play queen e7 like Bobby Fischer's opponent did, and he got a draw. So as a surprise weapon it may work, but don't take the knight on e5. I'm talking of course about this position. Don't take the knight, but play queen e7, and that may be a good surprise weapon. Next week will be a video on the letter E. Will it be Max Euwe? Will it be the English opening? I'm looking forward to seeing your suggestions. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, please subscribe to the Chess to Impress channel, and please leave a comment. I will read them all and I will reply to them all. If you like this series, the link to the series is in the description box of this video. And if you like it, it would be great if you could share it on social media by clicking the share button on YouTube. You can find me on Instagram, on Twitter and on Facebook. This is Rick for Chess to Impress. Thank you for watching.